Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, wherever, whenever you're listening. This is the Root for Wisconsin Show, episode 147, coming at you from the Riverwood Gallery Studio in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm host, producer Eric Fisher. Joining me this week, the one and only, and when I say one and only, I'm not talking about a superlative, I'm talking about the fact that he is the only one and only. Joining me this week, it's Dylan Trey.
That's a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you are the one and only Dylan Trey that I know, so I guess that is true. Also true. But
that's
the
true.
one and only person joining me. So anyway, enough of the introductions. We got that out of the way. People by now should know who both of us are. If you're listening, if you're brand new to the show, well, first of all, thanks. Hope we don't chase you away after one episode, but if we do, well, it is what it is. Anyway, that's the kind of show we are. So with that said, got to do a shout out to Ragin' Pro Wrestling having us, and we want to thank them for allowing us to stop in and take in RPW Extravaganza 3 over the weekend. It was an absolute blast, which, by the way, my root for was a lot of fun. So the RPW Extravaganza 3, as always, do want to thank Rich and the staff over there. Great time. Got to see former WWE talent Mr. Kennedy wrestling pretty close to his hometown. Also, as we've come to know and go to some of these events, Rampage Santana, representing Bully Brand Clothing Company, LLC, took down Mr. Anderson in the main event in a hellacious battle. So that'll be on RPW's YouTube page. They do upload every single match week by week, so be sure to pay attention to that. Tickets are available already for the June 1st show, which will be RPW Homecoming 2. That is Saturday, June 1st at the Wapaka Expo Center. Ramsey, Shauna, and I will not be in attendance due to our commitment to a wedding. Dylan, if you want to go, by all means, highly recommend. Great people, great time. Also appearing on that card, it'll be, once again, Ken Anderson, taking on former WWE talent Chris Masters at that show. For those of you who maybe remember Chris Masters, inventor of the Master Lock, like a standing full Nelson, that was almost impossible to get out of. And I believe the only person who broke the Master Lock challenge was Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I want to say the only other one that I would think would have been able to do that would have been John Cena, but I guess I don't remember.
John Cena did not. I believe John Cena tapped out to it.
Did he? I don't remember. I remember watching that long time ago, and I do remember Bobby Lashley doing it, but I couldn't remember if John Cena did.
I believe Bobby Lashley was the first one to do it, so it was an incredible hold that, quite frankly, if you were trying it with your little brother, as they say not to, but if you were to do so...
Oh, I did.
It hurt. Allegedly. It hurt like a bitch.
Yeah. Allegedly.
As always, do not try those types of things at home. But if you do, feel good, from what I'm told. Yeah. All right. So that, and then we get into the episode and talk about what we had rooted for. And as I just mentioned, RPW Extravaganza 3 was my root for. Their actual show cycle starts back in August. However, this was the first show Ramsey and I had gone to. We were at RPW Extravaganza 1. So our time going back to this goes back to around that time frame, so 2022. But still, absolute blast every single time. Always fun to come back. So that's my root for this week. Dylan, what do you got for us?
Mine's going to be an easy one, man. It's March. College basketball tournament. It's rolling. Last two play-in games are happening right now. It's the best time of the year. Best time of the year.
Truly is. So with the positives, we go to the negatives, and that leads us to our Tyler Hero Noogie of the Week. And Dylan, what do you got? Do you have one for us on this one?
I do. Not Wisconsin related. I don't think it's going to be a real uncommon one either. I'm not happy that the committee left Indiana State out of the tournament.
And why is that?
Among other teams. I think there's a few other ones that deserve to get in, but we'll get into that later. Indiana State. I was a big fan of, I don't know his actual name, but I just know him by his nickname, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He would have been absolute showtime in this tournament. Absolute perfect Cinderella opportunity. Would have been great. I don't know. I'm a little frustrated, but those people on the committee are a lot smarter about it than I am. So
I'm sure they have a reason for it, but I would have loved to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the NCAA tournament, getting that primetime love. But correct me if I'm wrong, they are playing in the NIT. Like, they're one of the few schools that said, yeah, we're going to play.
I see. I thought they. No, you're right. I would say I thought they turned down, but actually they play SMU at 6 p.m. today.
Nice. So I'll probably have that on in just a little. Well, no, I'll probably leave the Grambling State game on, the play-in game. But
Robbie Avila.
Nice.
That's what we're talking about. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
You know, I was leaning towards this being my noogie of the week as well. And also just the people who like relentlessly complain about seeding in the tournament and teams that get in, teams get out. There's a whole lot that goes into it. So I do want to defend them a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll get into that later.
My noogie, though, I'm going to go to Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, who was fired by the Dodgers today amid allegations of massive theft of Shohei's funds to cover his gambling debts. Now, it is no secret that I am a pro-gambling type person, and I think that the rules around it in sports are flawed at the very least. However, I feel like a team employee, should probably have enough funds to cover that, especially when you're working directly with Shohei Ohtani. And also, I guess we're not just going to talk about, because I don't know what the MLB's rules on it are, but like I know NFL players aren't supposed to like gamble at all and can't do it at team facilities. And if old buddy is at spring training, like that's team facility. So I'm sure some other rules were broken alongside the theft. So that's my big noogie of the week. And that just happened within the last, I don't know, hour or so that got reported.
Yeah, the notification just popped up on my phone and my iPad about 2 minutes ago. So
I do got to also give a noogie to the people who are just like relentlessly talking and almost stalking recruits in the transfer portal, which actually leads me to my next noogie. I had a couple out of this whole thing, but first of all, I want to give a noogie, like I said, to the people who are stalking the transfer portal and like recruiting people to come to the school that they support. Because first of all, I'm not sure if ever that a fan has swayed a player like that. I think it's just kind of a weird look. And B, if anything, you're probably hurting your school's chance than helping. So I'm going to say that. But I'm also going to just say the transfer portal as a whole should not be open right now. And we're seeing a prime example of why with the NIT and with these other, the pay-in, the pay-for-play tournaments, they call them, like the CBI and the CIT, where teams where they don't really have a whole lot to gain by playing in those, like, yeah, you get some exposure, yeah, you get your guys some extra minutes, things like that. But when you open the transfer portal, it leads teams to turn those tournaments down. Specifically, the NIT was a really big one this year, where Rick Pitino's team, where was he coaching?
I know this.
St. John's, maybe?
I think so.
So Rick Pitino, St. John's, turned down the NIT after being, in his mind, snubbed by the selection committee for the NCAA tournament. Turned it down so that they could work fully on transfer portal. which, again, just is absolutely baffling to me of why you're letting that happen when your biggest tournament draw is going on right now. And you're kind of forcing the hand of some of these smaller schools who don't get in to not play in these other postseason tournaments to get a head start on recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you're either breaking up the coaching staff or breaking up the recruiting staffs who are supposed to be focusing on the tournament games, the teams that are, to watch the portal. So that is my other Noogie of the Week.
Yeah, he wasn't the only squad to did not decline NIT. Oklahoma was another team that I believe got snubbed. Pittsburgh, they were a first four out team, I believe. They all both declined their NIT invites, and I see Tom Crean, the former Indiana coach,
also former Marquette coach.
Yes.
Married to the sister of the Harbaughs.
And Georgia. He went off a couple days ago about teams declining bids to the NIT. So I get it, but yeah, the whole transfer portal, it's just a whole new mode of recruitment, basically.
And for what it's worth, I'm a big fan of the transfer portal as a whole. I think it's great that we've finally gotten to a point where we don't have to penalize kids for switching schools and leaving situations that suck when coaches can do so at any time.
Yeah.
So I don't hate this at all. I just hate the timing of it right now where, if we even wait 2 or 3 weeks, like if you really want to have it, maybe the Final Four weekend, if you want to open up close to in season. Because it doesn't make sense, like I said, because then you're in a position to have these teams turn it down and whatnot. And also, like I said, then, there's 4 teams still playing, but at least it's kind of divvied up a little bit.
Yeah. I would open transfer portal after the entire college postseason is done.
I would too. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. But like I said, if you're going to open it up while things are still going on, I would wait until it's basically done.
Yeah.
But that's just
Final Four weekend at the earliest.
Right. Which leads me, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, but a little Horizon League note, because I thought this was incredibly funny. So, Dylan, I'm not sure how closely you're paying attention to Horizon League and all these websites out there that are tracking the transfer portal and tracking all the announcements of players leaving and whatnot. But right now, as you may or may not know, there's all the speculation sites of, this player has heard from this school, this school, this school, this school, this school, right? Very big thing on X/Twitter, whatever, and Facebook and all the social medias out there, but a big thing on Twitter right now. The funny part where the Horizon League comes in, though, is IUPUI, soon to be called IUI, because they're dropping the Purdue University part of the Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis.
That makes sense. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Yeah,
a little bit. So they're going to be.
I support that move.
As a whole, I do as well. But what's really funny, so again, they had another very bad record-wise season, to the point where I believe as of right now, they only have 2 players that are still on the active roster, which is a position Green Bay has found itself in the last couple of years prior to this season. So, I definitely understand how hard that can be to build up every year. But why it's funny to me is they also had fired their head coach. So when you're getting these rumors and reports of X university has contacted X recruit, and IUPUI, or IUI is what they're going to be known in the fall. But when you see IUPUI on this list for the men's side, they don't have a head coach. They have 2 players on the roster. Who are they hearing from?
7th graders?
The janitor, maybe?
Yeah.
That's a joke. I cannot take credit for that. That's a joke that was made by the Horizon Roundtable specialist, Bob McDonald. So I want to give him proper credit for that. But
nice for you to give credit where it's due.
But for real though, like who's contacting these people? I mean, I guess maybe the athletic director could, in theory. But if you're a recruit, Dylan, are you going to go to a school that doesn't have a coach yet? Just because the AD says, "Hey, what's up?"
The only way I would be considering that is if I'm, how do I put this? If I know I'm not playing basketball beyond my college basketball career, and I'm from the area and I want to be closer to home, and the situation I'm currently in sucks already, because I mean, you're really, no offense to them, but you're scraping the bottom of the barrel if you're going to transfer to a team that went 6-26 with no coach and two active players, right? So that's really the only situation I can see in my head, is if you either want excuse me, puberty, you either want or you need to be closer to your family or something in that area. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's the extent of what I can figure out myself, as well as almost like you said, the exact situation of, I think of this happened in pro baseball like 2 or 3 seasons ago. I can't think of his name, so I do apologize, but where a player whose mom had like terminal cancer, and
Right.
he wanted to be traded from St. Louis, where he was playing, out to Oakland, where he was from and grew up, so he could be close to her for the doctor appointments and all that stuff. But it'd have to be something to that effect, or like, we're talking college kids, so you're talking about like, girlfriend or something like that too,
Right.
maybe. But yeah, even then, unless
maybe I can think of possibly the school I'm at doesn't have, I'm switching majors, I'm switching disciplines, or perhaps there is a job in the area that you're looking at securing upon graduation, and you want to be closer to start an internship, get your foot in the door kind of thing. I could see that being a reason as well, but I don't see it being for basketball.
No. No. Not for basketball whatsoever. All right, moving on. We go to our Wisconsin web story of the week. Last week we had 3. This week only 1.
Oh, wow.
And this really actually kind of applies. So the story here is this regarding the city of Green Bay. But really, this kind of goes for the entire greater Green Bay area, even Milwaukee. And when I say greater Green Bay, I'm talking like the Green Bay TV market. So we're talking Appleton, Oshkosh, up towards the UP, Marinette, Menominee, Door County. This very widely encompasses that greater Green Bay area. And that is, Dylan, is that Discover Green Bay, the organization, nonprofit, is offering help for people who are looking to rent out their homes during the NFL 2025 draft when it comes to Green Bay next year. With the tagline that renting your home out isn't as easy as just creating an ad on Facebook Marketplace, which I didn't know all this. So this is actually a little informational, but also people, if you're listening and you want to consider this, there's a couple steps you got to go through. With that in mind, we'll start this coming courtesy of WBAY.com, which is ABC affiliate here in Green Bay. 2025 NFL Draft is expected to bring an extra $20 million to Brown County over the 3 days that's here. Some people are looking to cash in on that extra money by renting out their homes during the draft, but it might not be as simple as you think. You might have heard friends or family say they want to rent out their house during the draft for a pretty penny, knowing demand will be high for nearby places to stay. However, if you want to do that, there's a list of steps that you need to take. And before, it's not as easy as just creating an ad on Facebook Marketplace. This is coming from Brad Toll, who is the president of Discover Green Bay, which has an entire section on its website dedicated to the ins and outs of short-term rentals for the draft. You can read state rules, policies, health regulations, yada yada, when it comes to renting out the property. You do have to get a license from Brown County and an inspection done by Brown County Public Health. You also have to pay a $350 to apply for the license and pay for the fees in the inspection as well. And then you also may need a seller's permit from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. And then you also do need to check your homeowner's insurance policy to see if it would cover like accidental damage and what kind of policy you have.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something that you're looking into, like I said, be sure to reach out to your local ordinances for proper information.
Interesting. I don't plan on renting out my place down in Neenah. I'm comfortable being here with me and my own.
I don't believe that we're even allowed to do that in the Root for Wisconsin Studio number 3. So we will also not be doing that. So I do want to apologize to our listeners, but this prime location here in De Pere won't be up for grabs.
Darn.
I know. But I do have to make note of that it is unfortunately not available. All right, Dylan, you want to talk some sports now?
Oh, we're talking sports?
Yeah, we might as well. I figured we can.
Yeah. Well, let's get into her.
All right. So a couple just quick hits on the Milwaukee Brewers here. Milwaukee Brewers have opening day just over a week away by the time this is released tomorrow for us as we're sitting here recording. It will be a week from Brewers opening day, Thursday the 28th. So just over a week away as we're recording. And with that in mind, earlier this week, or maybe even late last week, manager Pat Murphy did announce the Brewers' opening day pitcher, which is it's a kind of set your rotation based around opening day, and then you kind of tinker throughout the season. But the number one pitcher going into the year next year is, to no one's surprise, going to be Freddie Peralta, the most tenured Brewer on the staff. Speculation currently has the rotation looking like Freddie Peralta, Colin Ray, and D.L. Hall in no particular order. D.L. Hall, the player acquired, or one of the players acquired from Baltimore in the Corbin Burns trade. So it looks like he's going to get day 2, which will be next week, Saturday. They take an off day Friday just to kind of account for weather with the outside nature of volatile weather of the spring season. They can still get their pomp and circumstance in. So Thursday, a week from tomorrow, be the 28th, Brewers opening day at 12:10 Central Time here locally against the New York Mets out in the Bronx. No, Flushing. Bronx is the Yankees. So 3 games set against the Mets, and then an off day on the 1st. A 2-game homestand against the Twins, and then another off day, then 3 against the Mariners, all at home. So Brewers home opener just under 2 weeks away. As we're recording, that one's scheduled for 3:10 on Tuesday, April 2nd. I believe I saw just one other quick Brewers story here. Actually, 2 more, so I do apologize, Dylan. But
it's quite all right.
Devin Williams officially expected to miss about 2 to 3 months with a back injury. So that is, he will be out for surgery. I believe herniated discs. 2 discs in the back were herniated. So he had to have surgery on that. And out the 2 months or so, 2 to 3 months. The Brewers opening day roster also starting to kind of come together. I believe earlier this week or late last week, it was announced that phenom product Jackson Chourio is going to be opening the season on the big league roster. So it is expected that the Brewers may be carrying 6 outfielders to start. The opening or start opening day. We do know Christian Yelich obviously is a lock. Sal Frelick likely a lock, and then we'll be looking at Garrett Mitchell, Joey Weimer, and Blake Perkins joining Chourio out in the outfield as well. As for the infielders, we're talking Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Terang, Willie Adames, Joey Ortiz, Jake Bowers, Andrew Monasterio, and Christian Arroyo as your Brewers infield. An unprecedented 3 catchers, William Contreras, Gary Sanchez, and Eric Haas, with Haas and Sanchez likely getting a lot of DH-type roles. So plenty of opportunity there for the bats as well. But we're looking at a pretty loaded roster right now, Dylan, for the Milwaukee Brewers. And like I said, the big splash in this coming with Chourio being expected to join the opening day lineup.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't been following much for baseball this off season. Not that I really follow it during the regular season, but where we were a couple months ago when we were, talking about what does this team want from their identity and what kind of mode are they in? Are they still in, let's put the pedal to the metal, or are they backing off and retooling a little bit? It's nice to see that they're still leaning more toward, let's get this thing done. Let's go for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of just other notes as we kind of go through here. Eric Haas tied for the club lead in spring training home runs with 4. Willie Adames with 3. Contreras, Hoskins, and Yelich all have 2. Sal Frelick, Joey Ortiz, and Gary Sanchez all have 1. A number of the younger prospects kind of sprinkled in throughout there. Sal Frelick batting an impressive .310 through spring training. Jackson Chourio with .286 average through spring training and 49 at-bats. So very bright future for him in spring training as he's kind of getting used to the role. Sal Frelick leading a lot of these categories, and Jackson Chourio leading the Brewers through spring training in hits with 14. So that's exactly what you want to see out of your number 1 prospect, the number 2 overall prospect in all of baseball, or number 1 overall prospect in all of baseball, depending on which site you're looking at. So that's our quick baseball hit. I'm sure we'll have a little bit more next week as we inch towards opening day. But that is what we have for this week. We'll take a quick stop off in Milwaukee while we're down there talking about Milwaukee Bucks, who actually will be playing tonight against the Celtics, who are still first in the East. Bucks coming off of back-to-back wins Thursday and Sunday. Took down the 76ers 114-105, and then knocked down the Suns 140-129.
Yeah, that's a big offensive game right there. 140 points.
Now, I believe Giannis has already been ruled out for tonight, so no Giannis Antetokounmpo tonight. In the win over the Suns, once again, Damian Lillard really seeming to find his stride with this Milwaukee Bucks team. Was the co-leading scorer for the Bucks. 31 points in that win, 10 of 19 shooting, 4 of 8 from the field, 16 assists, with 5 rebounds for Dame time. Chris Middleton with one of his bigger games this season, 22 points for him on 8 of 15 shooting. Jay Crowder, 18 points on 7-11 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. Malik Beasley, 17 points, and then the leading scorer off the bench, also the co-leading scorer, Bobby Portis, another 31 points, 13 of 20 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3.
Yeah, that's not really what I expect out of him, but I'm not going to complain.
No, not at all. So the Bucks, as mentioned, still are second in the East, 10 games behind Boston, who has already locked up a playoff spot. Boston, the number 1 seed in all of basketball right now, so The NBA playoffs will run through Boston more than likely at this point. One thing worth mentioning as we've been kind of following along here throughout the season, Bucks defensive opponents per game still towards the bottom of the pack, I believe by my math here, sitting in 8th defense or 9th defensively. Nope, 10th defensively. In the Eastern Conference, with still giving up 117.3 points per game, which is still greatly improved from where they had started.
Mm-hmm.
So making headway into that, but very good things to see from the Bucks as they continue to kind of chew up this roster over the last 14 games left of the regular season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will be anxious, hoping that they can lock up, a higher seed. And I'm assuming, they got. Just pull that up quick. They got. Oh, come on, computer! Don't do this to me. Here we go. It's a tight race. 2 through 8 are not that far out. Especially 2 through 5, they're all within 3.5 games. So obviously you want to lock up that 2 seed, 3 seed at worst. Giannis is having issues. You want to rest him when you can, get him healthy for when the playoffs come. There's no point. I don't really think there's any point in trying to chase Boston because, like you said, you got 14 games left. You're not going to make up 10 games in 14 unless something catastrophic happens out east. But just lock up that 2 seed, 3 seed at worst, get everybody healthy, and then hit the playoffs rolling.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's where the Bucks are. We go over to, let's take a quick trip to the world of football and a couple football notes here. First and foremost, do want to talk Green Bay Blizzard. Indoor football season got underway over the weekend. Green Bay Blizzard fall in their opening game to the Massachusetts Pirates. They fall 44-40, and it came down to the very last play of that ball game, where it was an interception thrown in the end zone for the Blizzard. But I don't know, Dylan, how often you watch indoor football. It's on YouTube every week, not YouTube TV, just on YouTube on the IFL. Definitely a lot of fun to watch. A great game to watch, a great sport to watch. Fast-paced, a lot of scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Worth a watch. Blizzard are back in action the 23rd, so that's Saturday night, 6:05 kickoffs. Get set for that one at the Resch Center. Get your tickets though, as tickets do go for these pretty fast. Ticket or attendance for these, I'm not 100% sure what the cap is, but they had 6,000 people at the last home game, so be sure to get out there for that. Green Bay Gamblers also still in action in hockey, so sharing the floor of the Resch Center with them still. So worth mentioning there. High school boys basketball over the weekend. Obviously, all 5 state champions were crowned at Madison at the Kohl Center. Do want to give a second shout out, as he was one of my other reporters last week, with Aiden Franti of Gillett, who was one of the 2 D5 participants in the 3-point shooting contest. So he took home, I think all competitors get a medal for that. He was eliminated in the first round, but still very cool accomplishment to see a Gillett kid in that 3-point shooting contest. Is, I believe, the first ever to do it from the school in the 8 or 9 years they've been doing it now. I believe it's been about that long. So definitely cool to see that. So just a couple local hits there. Like I said, just focusing on, but just mentioning, Dylan, I kind of think I wish we would have had it when we were in school. The 3-point contest that they do before the state championship Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would have participated, but it still would have been cool.
Yeah, I've only competed in in one 3-point contest in my life, and
I've
that
also competed
was
in one.
it was a 3-on-3 tournament. I played. It was where was that? It was up north, kind of by you, I think.
Was Crivets?
Crivets 3-on-3. Played it for 2 years. I played with, let's see, Tyler Seminis from Laconia, Dylan Sommerfeld from Lourdes, and Brandon Hagel from Wittenberg Burnhamwood. Done right?
Sure.
I think that's where he went to school. We won the tournament the first year. The second year we ran into we lost in a championship to Tyler Segal, who was on scholarship at GB. We lost to them by 1 point in the championship. And then
To who?
Remember Ty Segal?
Oh yeah.
Lakeport?
Yes.
He was on the GB men's team for a while, and then he stopped playing so he could play intramurals with me.
That's right.
Yeah. We played him, and after that game was done, they're like, "Oh, you guys need to go do the 3-point contest quick." So I was like, well, "I don't have anything to lose here, so I'll jump in it," and I ended up winning it. So
I participated in the Green Bay intramural 3-on-3 contest, or not 3-on-3, but 3-point contest, which I think was also at a 3-on-3 tournament they did for on-campus people. I think I did pretty good. I don't think I won, but I think I got second or third in it. Pretty proud of that.
yeah, hey.
And Dylan, with that, we go into just a quick hit on the Packers, as nothing really coming new since we last recorded. When Sean and I recorded last week, it was obviously the big splash free agency gets of Josh Jacobs, as well as Xavier McKinney, and then bringing back A.J. Dillon and bringing back Keyshawn Nixon in free agency.
Yep, I see that.
So some really big hits there and a couple little pieces as well to go with them. So any thoughts on the acquisitions thus far?
It has been an absolute roller coaster of free agency. Obviously, I wasn't here last week to talk about, the big splashes, the adding Josh Jacobs, the, losing, Aaron Jones, adding some others, losing some others. I remember, that I was texting you when we added Josh Jacobs, and I was so happy for that hour until I saw we weren't keeping Aaron Jones, and then my chest started to get, I thought I was having a heart attack. Was not real happy, but you know what? I know more than I do, whatever. I like the moves so far. I don't particularly like losing Campbell. I thought he was solid. Other than that, I don't think the Josh Jacobs move would have been so much bigger had we not lost Aaron Jones. I'm not going to say that this is a lateral move by any means, because obviously Josh Jacobs is 4 years younger. He's got a lot of miles left on him compared to Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones is going to be 30 this December, and he's 26? So
just turned 26, correct?
Right. So he's a strong 4 years, maybe just under younger. I don't see this as us moving backward in free agency so far. It's more lateral to slightly up. So
I would say, in terms of what we've seen through the first week of free agency, I would say it's more than just even slightly up. I'd say it's a big move upwards. I mean, Josh Jacobs to Aaron Jones is going to be debated for some time now, but the pure add of Xavier McKinney alone,
yep,
is it's so substantial because you're getting a guy who, knock on wood, to this point has been relatively healthy, as well as just has a phenomenal track record in the NFL. Statistically speaking, on his rookie contract, which he had the 4-year contract. And for what it's worth, and I know you get best athlete, at the NFL level, most guys, especially in those skill positions, are plug and play. They'll fit into any offense or defense.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, you get the perfect fit of any available safety out there for Jeff Hafley's defense. Playing the post safety, playing a little bit of corner, playing some coverage safety. You really cover so many areas with one player who plays at such a high level in that type of role to do exactly what the defense needs. Now, that brings me to my next point here is the addition of McKinney and Jacobs, bringing back Keyshawn Nixon, a move that I think is very underrated so far in free agency. And then bring back A.J. Dillon on basically nothing. Bring him in on a vet minimum contract with a couple incentives that don't count towards the cap. So you're bringing him back and no guarantee. I mean, I believe it's guaranteed money, but it's not guaranteed in the sense of if they cut him at camp, it's not like a dead cap hit. So I still, after that move, think you grab another running back in the draft. And Justin, actually, we're talking about this earlier today in a one-on-one chat, but just looking at Packers mock drafts, you can't not be excited for what the Packers can do in a little over a month. And there's really, we're kind of looking at the draft as a whole. I did 2 drafts this week. I try to do one a week, posted on Twitter on Mock Draft Monday. So sometime during the day, I usually do that on Mondays. First one I did, offensive tackle Marius Mims, probably the second or third top-rated offensive tackle in the draft at 25. I don't, for purity purposes, I don't usually throw trades in here, even though 1 or 2 is probably bound to happen. But it's just, it gets a little too unrealistic then. So on the assumption Packers would keep all 11 picks, Marius Mims, Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota, probably the second or third safety in this draft class. Defensive tackle out of Clemson. The new running back, I think, would make a lot of sense. So we know, for those following along with my mock drafts I do every week, I have been taking a lot of Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. The new back that I think you're going to see a lot of is going to be Bucky Irving, a speedster out of Oregon, who makes a ridiculous amount of sense, especially when you consider a potential 3-headed monster of Irving, Josh Jacobs, and A.J. Dillon. You have a little bit of everything if that's the route you go. Then going with the defensive back, Renardo Green out of Florida State, Isaiah Adams, offensive guard out of Illinois, Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker out of Ohio State, Satoa Larina, offensive guard out of Utah, Sean Vaki, another safety out of Utah, and then a couple linebackers to wrap that one up. Really, the first round, and I did, like I said, I did 2 this week. The first round could go either way. I think I'm still looking at the same 5 positions in my first 5, just in different spots. The first draft I did not have Cooper DeJean available, the cornerback / safety out of Iowa. The second one did. So I did one with him. Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona at 41. Connor Beebe, an offensive guard from Kansas State at 58. Went Bucky Irving again at 88. And Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan at 91. Linebacker Jalen Ford at 126. Linebacker from Penn State, Curtis Jacobs. The same guard from Utah, another safety, and then a couple, another offensive lineman, and another, just kind of a flyer running back at pick 255. So I still think you go offensive line, defensive line, at least 1 or 2 DBs and a running back in that first 5. That's what I would do. Obviously, we have about a month to figure that out. And the Packers also still have $24.5 million in cap room left. So potential for some moves yet to happen as well.
Guess we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be the first to admit here I haven't really been paying attention to a whole lot of what's happened in Packers free agency beyond the opening day. When we signed Josh Jacobs, we lost all those guys. We signed Xavier McKinney, all that stuff, because college basketball postseason started. But I have to admit I've been on this all falls on Goody train.
Mm-hmm.
And he's proven me wrong time and time again. He knows what he's doing. So I'm at the point now where I'm just throwing my hands up. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch what happens, and I'm going to enjoy the process.
Yeah, absolutely. About the same place I am, just because there's so much out there going on yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some names to watch here over the next couple weeks for the Packers to potentially look at adding. Not saying that they will or won't, but I'm going to throw a couple of names your way and position groups that I think could make sense. The number one free agent still on the board by most writers out there, Stephon Gilmore, cornerback. Very notably played for the Patriots, played for the Cowboys last season with the Cowboys last season, 68 tackles, 13 passes defended, 2 interceptions, only allowed 4 passing touchdowns. Could be an interesting get for the Packers at 33 years old. So a little long in the tooth in that aspect, but potentially could add some depth at one of those positions. Another name that I had seen out there that I think could make a lot of sense for the Packers is actually a reunion with Micah Hyde.
Yeah.
Appears to be mutual interest by some reports that is a reunion that could happen on a fairly cheap deal. So just a name to keep your eye out for, as well as any other defensive back for that matter too, just to see if that's a route that the Packers might go. I think it would make a lot of sense to bring in another skilled defensive back at a relatively cheap contract. I would like to say I think they're done on the offense unless it's an offensive lineman, which there is still a big fish out there in Mekhi Becton, most recently with the Jets. So there is some names out there, but I'd be looking for free agents of either like a linebacker or a DB if I'm going to go that route. So that's a quick hit on the Packers. And then with that, Dylan, as you mentioned, it is March. So that leads us to the NCAA tournaments. And as always, we do still have our NCAA tournament bracket challenges out there. And I say challenges because we do have a men's one and a women's one this year. I'm not sure if we'll have prizes on both. To be honest, I probably will. But we do have the 2 challenges out there. So do you want to say for the Root for Wisconsin show, all 48 people have signed up so far. Do want to thank you and wish you the best of luck in the race for second, because my bracket's the one that's going to win. So kidding. But we'll take a look at the bracket here in just a moment. On the women's side, would like to see this increase a little bit more. We do have 6 people so far braving the storm in the women's side, which it can be a little bit harder. In doing some prep work for the women's bracket, Dylan, the upsets are not as common on women's basketball side. You get some, but percentage-wise, you do not get as many. So let's start there on the women's side.
Oh yeah, I just joined the group and I'm ready to fill out a bracket right now.
So we'll start on the women's side. As mentioned, our Green Bay Phoenix, the alma mater of yours truly and Dylan and Secretary Shauna. are in the tournament. They got the 11 seed in the Portland 4 region with their first round draw against Tennessee. That game is Saturday morning. First game Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time out in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we'll talk about that game a little bit more here as we go along. But Dylan, you said you're going to do this along with us. So we'll kind of look through the bracket. Number 1 overall seed, not surprising. Kind of was I don't know if it was unanimous, but it was probably pretty damn close. Was the South Carolina Gamecocks. They do have a play-in game, but I know a lot of people kind of keep this close to the vest. I have South Carolina going all the way to the national championship game. I have them losing, but I do have them getting to that game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to for sure take them in the first round as well.
So we kind of go through the bracket. Winner of that game would play the winner of the 8 versus 9 North Carolina-Michigan State game. Statistically speaking, in the women's tournament, the number 9 seed actually holds a 59-57 edge over the 8 seed. And most recently in 2021, all 4 8 seeds did advance. It's only been done 3 times that all 4 of the 1 seed, either the 8 or the 9, has moved on. So usually you get at least one upset by technical standards.
Yep.
I'm
picking my heart. All the metrics here tell me that Michigan State's going to win this game, but I bleed Carolina blue. So go Heels. Next.
Now again, we're probably not going to go as in depth on every one of these, but just because it's the first one we are.
Yep.
5 versus 12 is a very common upset in the men's side of the tournament. Not so much on the women's side. 89-27.
Mm-hmm.
As the number 5 seed is against the 12 seed. But the last 2 seasons, we have seen multiple 12 seeds advance in a row. So it is doable. This one on the Regional 1 is Oklahoma versus the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles. Most notable for the men's side, where they had the Dunk City run a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Oklahoma, Florida Gulf Coast. In your 4-13, Indiana versus Fairfield. Obviously, Indiana the 4. This one even more of a lengthy advantage for the higher seed. Number 4 seeds are 109-7 since 1985 in this type of matchup. So if you're out there looking for a 4-13 matchup or upset, statistically not as likely. Next, we move on to the 6 versus 11 Nebraska versus Texas A&M, which ironically also the matchup that the men have, Nebraska and Texas A&M, which I believe is
it's an 8-9 matchup.
Yeah, but I was going to say it's pretty rare that that's happened where both schools both schools draw the same opponent.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
This one, again, since 1985, in the women's tournament, number 6 seeds are 80-36 against the 11, but 8 of those upsets that have happened, so 8 of the 36, have happened in the last 5 tournaments. Mississippi State pulling it off last year. I'm not going with A&M to do it because I think Green Bay is going to do it. Spoiler alert. The 3 versus 14, Oregon State, East Washington. Marquette did get in at a 10 seed. They were kind of a bubble team, but they do not have a play-in, so they got in outright out of the Big East. Ole Miss versus Marquette in the 7-10. And then your 2-15 matchup in that one, you've got Notre Dame versus Kent State. In Regional 4, that's how they do it here on ESPN. So as you're kind of going through the bracket challenge. Regional 4, Texas versus Drexel in the 1 versus 16. Texas, a little bit of a controversial pick to get in there. A lot of people had USC in their bracketology as getting the second or the last 1 seed. But it is Texas. So Texas versus Drexel, Alabama, Florida State. Utah versus South Dakota State in the 5-12. I do have an upset here. I think Utah State is a powerhouse in the women's basketball side of things as well, and I very much see them pulling off that upset. Gonzaga is going to get past UC Irvine in the 4-13. And then, as mentioned, the Tennessee Vols taking on the Green Bay Phoenix in that 6-11. And looks like Justin's trying to join us, so perfect timing for him. It says to let him in, but I don't have an option to do that, so he'll pop in when he pops in.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I don't have to edit this. And Justin is joining us, so I'll let him get situated here. Justin, we are just talking. We're going through the women's NCAA tournament bracket.
The women's?
The women's, as we do have a bracket challenge for the Root for Wisconsin show on that one. We were just talking Green Bay versus Tennessee.
Wow, that's easy. I mean, Green Bay is going to crush them.
That's right.
Honestly, we both agree.
Honestly, I haven't seen much of Tennessee on the other side. By the way, it's great to be joining the team here, Eric. Thanks for giving me the big join-in entrance music that I request every time I join. That's on you, by the way.
I do want to add that I have introduced you to the show twice already before you officially joined.
Oh,
when you texted me that you were trying to join.
Oh, well, some got screwed up. Although, why isn't anything working around here or anything today? Anyways, all right, I haven't watched much of Tennessee at all. So what kind of information can you give me on Tennessee, Eric?
That's an excellent question, Justin. I will give you the ESPN analysis overview because this is the extent of the Tennessee information that I know. So this coming from ESPN directly says the Lady Vols didn't have a great season by their standards, but it wasn't due to offensive shortcomings. Tennessee still shot the ball well, particularly inside the arc, and it's also good at free throw shooting. The Lady Vols racked up plenty of offense and defensive boards per game while posting a decent assist-to-turnover ratio. The struggles are in defense, especially guarding the three and forcing steals, which Green Bay, for what it's worth, Justin, led the country this year in assist-to-turnover ratio at 1.75. Green Bay is very efficient from behind the perimeter, reliable at the free throw line, a little bit undersized, but does have the tenacity to get to the boards, which is something that Tennessee has struggled in as a whole, especially when they get a little bit sloppy, they get a little thrown off their game, they get a little lazy defensively, which could open up for the Phoenix, who are very aggressive on the boards.
Well, who would you? What would you say the playing experience was? The toughness of schedule for Green Bay. Did they play a tough enough schedule to be in this
Green
game?
Bay,
You're the pro
absolutely.
with the GB women, so I'm asking you.
So the Basketball Power Index puts Green Bay at the 55th team in the country, which the net rankings, I believe, had them at 54 after they won the Horizon League tournament. So pretty close going against Tennessee, who comes in BPI at 24. In conference, they were pretty equal. Tennessee had a 10-6 season in the SEC. Against the top 25, Tennessee was 1-8 this season. Their most notable win, that one came on November 25th, coming up against the Oklahoma Sooners. All their other notable results that they have on the ESPN Bracket Challenge are all losses. 71-57 loss against Indiana, a 74-69 loss against Notre Dame, a 78-58 loss against Ohio State, and then 3 losses against South Carolina, 66-55, 76-68, 74-73, all coming against South Carolina, and then a loss to LSU as well at 75-60. So those 3 teams, or those 2 teams we just mentioned, and really throwing Notre Dame in there as well, all very good basketball teams in women's basketball. But Green Bay, we look at them on the other side, 2 top 25 wins this season against Creighton and Washington State, both of those pretty handedly as well as keeping up with a very good Maryland team playing in the WBIT. 2 wins against Cleveland State. Both of those are one at home, one in the Horizon League tournament. A win against Illinois State, who has been vastly improving over the years, also makes note of their notable results. And then they did suffer a loss early in the season to DePaul, which is also considered in their notable results. But I legitimately like the Green Bay Phoenix in this game a lot, not just as a homer. I think where Tennessee kind of falters, Green Bay excels in. And they should be able to keep up offensively and just the defensive effort. Yes, you do have to stop a potential WNBA lottery pick in Rickea Jackson, who comes in averaging 19.4. But Green Bay's defense has been incredible against high-scoring guards all season, most notably in the Horizon League tournament where they limited Mickey Purdue to 7 points in that championship game. And Horizon League Player of the Year, Colby Maples, did have 22, but only 6 of those came in the second half.
Straight man-to-man?
For Tennessee, I believe so.
UWGB is straight man-to-man, right? Like, that's a Kevin Boris staple. He doesn't do anything crazy like Matt Ballett did with the Buzz defense or anything like that.
Yeah, occasionally you'll see them switch it up just a bit into a kind of a press 2-3, but it's not very, I guess, not very frequent.
He's old school. He's pack line defense guy. I get it. When you play a team like that, the pack line, it could go one of 2 ways. Pack line defense is much like in the same sentence of talking about how on your quarterback is in the game. You're either seeing the court really well defensively and you're in the correct places off of your scouting report that you're just going to shut them down. Now, for instance, another person that does the pack line defense is Tony Bennett. And if anybody watched the game last night against Colorado State, they obviously didn't do a very good job in losing by 25 points. So that's good. That to me is the key. How well are they going to come off of a scouting report and see the court, bring the tape to the court and play your pack line defense, win it with defense, and actually just see if you could be there at the end. In an 11-6 matchup, in any facet of a tournament, there's always a shot there.
Yeah, we were just mentioning the statistics on the 11-6 matchup. Now, the women's side, not as close as the men's side. Overall, since 1985, the 6th seed is 80-36, Justin, against the 11th seed. However, 8 of those 36 wins for the 11th seed have come in the last 5 years.
Which is telling, right? Because the depth of women's basketball is drastically changing. And you can even see that at the high school level in our state. The depth of girls basketball in our state has risen so much. And even over my 20 years of coaching, it's drastically changed, right? And it's that just goes up another step. So I think the longer we go, the more that's going to happen to equal itself out.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with both your points there, Justin. I do want to ask, since we didn't get a chance to talk last week, you were at the state games, the semifinal games on opening day Thursday, correct?
And Friday, yep.
And Friday, okay.
I did the Friday morning session, yeah.
So I do want to kind of go on that and just mention of how good as a whole, and you just referenced it, the basketball talent on the girls' side in this state is. And the talent that Sean and I got to see on Championship Saturday was unreal.
Yeah. So I don't remember what game it was. I think it was Pewaukee Notre Dame.
Division II game, yeah.
Yeah. You saw as many as 6 D1 or D2 kids on the floor at one time.
That's absolutely correct. It was
In that one
obviously
game.
Gracie Gresh and Trista Fada for Notre Dame, both already committed, with Gracie Gresh going to Wisconsin for some reason, Trista Fada going to Illinois State, and then the Terrian twins, Pigtail Power, as Shauna calls them,
Yeah.
Pewaukee, both committed to Michigan State at 5'10" juniors.
Yeah.
Both of them incredibly talented basketball players.
That game versus Pewaukee in Notre Dame was better than a current D3 college basketball game.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even hesitate to say
so
that.
that speaks to the depth and the level of where we're at. I mean, you're talking about a matchup that's happened 3 straight years in the championship game. It's just ridiculous. Then you move on to the Division I, right? And you have Allie Zabel, which missed Wisconsin, going to UConn, but it's about the player that she beat to get there in the sectional final from Hortonville, Rainey Wilson. She is a junior and she just committed to Maryland. And we're talking about Fox Valley kids. We're talking about Northeast Wisconsin kids. No, we're not talking about Milwaukee area kids. We're not talking about Madison area kids. We're talking about Green Bay area kids. And that speaks right there to the depth and how far the game has risen up, going up north, up 43, up 41, and it's only growing. So it's just unbelievable. It's the talent in D4. You had a girl from Laconia who committed before the season started to Division II Minnesota State, Mankato or whatever it is. D5 featured some. D3, which in our area, and this is, to contradict ourselves here, but in our area might have been the worst sectional in the state, regardless of division, featured an Appleton Xavier team that made it to the championship. Their best player was a freshman and didn't start either one of the 2 games at state. She was unbelievable in the state semifinal game, really carried the team. But then you talk about a Madison Edgewood team. Holy cow. They started 2 sophomores, 2 freshmen, brought a freshman off the bench, and they won the state championship. Unbelievable, the depth. There's probably 4 college basketball players on that roster right now. The point guard for Madison Edgewood, I don't know where she's a senior. I don't know where she's going, but she was phenomenal to watch. And that's just a pure basketball coach's purest look at a team, how she ran a team, how she performed, didn't make it about herself. She was unbelievable. I was thoroughly impressed, and I could tell you, even when I resigned from my previous job, I still went 2 years in a row, and you could still see, even from when Arike Gumbawale from Divine Savior was playing, and she went to Notre Dame. From that moment when she scored 56 points at state, this game has blown up. What I was really happy with, Eric, and I don't know if you saw these numbers, last year they dipped really, really low in attendance there. It was like 28,000. This year, they saw a great improvement. Over the 3 days, they went over 37,000, which puts them back in the top 5. I believe back in the top 5 since they went to Green Bay.
I didn't get the official number, so I'm glad you had that, but I can say that all 5 championship games, as well as the 2 semifinal games Friday night that we went to, were very well attended, and it was phenomenal to see that. One talent you didn't mention, Justin, is because it's not a Northeast Wisconsin team, but a phenomenal talent is sophomore from Arrowhead, Natalie Cuso, who led the Arrowhead Warhawks over Ali Zybel with her back-to-back 40-point performances in that.
She was unbelievable. She was absolutely unbelievable. But again, sophomore. Like, we're talking about a sophomore. Can you imagine the depth of what the state is at right now? Laconia had one senior.
Yeah.
One senior, and they're back-to-back state champs. They've been there 3 years in a row. It's unbelievable, the depth of the talent of what we're facing in the state. I said this to my assistant coach. We are truly sitting in a golden age of what this game is growing into right now.
Absolutely. All right, back to the bracket real quick. So Green Bay or Tennessee would go on to face NC State, or winner of NC State versus Chattanooga in your 3-14. Your 7-10, Iowa State versus Maryland. And then to wrap up that regional, Stanford versus Norfolk State. Stanford, another one of those teams that had a potential claim to the number one in that last regional, but did miss out to Texas. Second regional, Iowa plays a play-in winner. Spoiler alert, I have Iowa in my national championship game and winning.
You know what was awesome? Because I was actually in Iowa on a golf trip last year when Iowa was going through that run they had. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable. The people just in the area, even the people like the workers at the gosh darn hotel, like everywhere. It was wild. They truly love their women's basketball in Iowa. It's unbelievable. And I agree. I think Iowa's the team to beat.
All right. 8 versus 9. West Virginia versus Princeton. Colorado and Drake in the 5-12. Kansas State, Portland, 4-13. Louisville, Middle Tennessee, 6 versus 11. LSU versus Rice in the 3-14. Creighton, UNLV in the 7-10. And then the UCLA, California Baptist in the 2-15. And then in the last regional, USC versus Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. Kansas, Michigan in the 8-9. Baylor versus play-in winner in the 5-12. Virginia Tech versus Marshall in a 4-13. Syracuse in the 6 versus 11 against a play-in winner, Auburn or Arizona. Paige Beckers in the UConn Huskies in the 3 versus 14. Duke versus Richmond 7-10. And Ohio State versus Maine in the 2-15.
Paige Becker. What about KK?
Also a Wisconsin product. Freshman.
Yeah.
Couple-time freshman of the week in the AAC. Missed basketball last year.
Big East?
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Golly. What are we doing around
here? But yes, Paige Beckers, who already committed to coming back to UConn next year to play with Ali Zybel, and I'm 100% sure that's the reason why.
I'm not 100% sure, but
okay. We're running with it. Okay, we're running with it.
Run with it. Let's run with it.
We can't prove it otherwise.
Could ask her directly, but
we don't have the resources to do.
Let me ask you. Let's ask a quick question.
Sure.
In women's basketball, who's the John Calipari, the bad guy? Who's the bad guy coach in women's basketball?
LSU. Kim Mulkey or whatever.
Yeah, you don't like her?
I'm not a huge fan, but also I'm a huge UConn guy.
Oh,
I love me some Auriemma.
You're such a bandwagon jumper.
I'm an Auriemma guy, and I'm a big Kevin Borseth guy. You can put that on my Twitter bio. I'm a Kevin Borseth guy.
You couldn't talk about two opposite ends of the spectrum.
How can you not be a Borseth guy though?
Right. I was, for a period of my life, I was not a Borseth guy.
And that was a mistake.
Yes. Yes, when he went to Michigan, that was a mistake.
Touche.
Anyway, Gino Auriemma is the bad guy of women's basketball, Eric.
I like UConn a lot. Like that's simply
You
what it comes
only
down
like
to.
them because they win.
They have a good product on the court. It's fun to watch.
You got to think back. Well, I guess you're not old enough. You don't remember the Pat Summitt, Gino Auriemma big rivalry games, do you?
Oh, sure I do. I remember those.
Yeah, and he was a young prick back then.
Who won? There's a young prick that won.
No, Pat Summitt won. Are you kidding me? Pat Summitt is the greatest of all time. The GOAT.
Justin, she's dead. She's not going to sleep with you.
I don't care. I still have a shot.
All right.
Anyway,
I'm not touching that sentence.
Let's move
I'm just
on.
going to let that one.
Moving on.
Move on. Eric, you take things to weird places all the time. What's your problem?
You did kind of start
okay.
that. I'll give him that. You did kind of start that.
He starts
Okay.
everything, and then he blames me for all of his stupid comments. Anyways, what's next topic?
Well, Dylan, I was going to ask if you had your national champion pick as we were going through this.
I do. So I created 2 brackets. Obviously, you will see one in the group when the tournament starts, and then I just created another one.
Are we doing women's or are we doing men's right now?
We're currently on women's.
We're just wrapping up the women's.
Yep,
There's a women's bracket in the chat too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you went to our Facebook page, Justin, you would see it.
I'm on it.
I created one with my picks and one I used just autofill with ESPN's bracket analytics just to compare, see how the bracket analytics do. I like to do that. The bracket analytics has, just recap the quick Final Four. We've got South Carolina coming out of Regional 1, matching up with Texas out of Regional 4. And out of Regional 2, we have Kansas State, the 4 seed, meeting UConn, the 3 seed, in the Final Four. I thought was interesting. National championship game is South Carolina toppling UConn. Not my pick. My pick, if I get back to it, was I actually have Iowa beating South Carolina in the national championship.
Wow, undefeated South Carolina, huh?
Yep, going down.
All right.
Not picking against Caitlin. Not happening.
I also have Iowa taking down South Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a Don Staley fan.
My Final Four, I've got South Carolina, Stanford, Iowa, UConn.
That's exactly my Final Four. Exactly my Final Four.
I didn't do it yet. I'll get on.
We'll recap with you next week.
All right. I can do that now that I got all this extra time on my hands.
All right, boys, let's flip over to the men's side. We'll talk men's NCAA tournament. Dylan has a lot more notes than I do on this, so
I do have a good amount of notes.
We'll do a little bit matchup by matchup.
No notes again. I'm coming in blind. That's why I'm wearing these sweet sunglasses.
We can't see. Your camera's off.
I don't know. I can't turn it on. I don't know what the hell happened here.
Well, I don't want you to break it, so we're just going to let it as is.
Really?
Well, I don't want you to, not the camera, like, because you're ugly. I just feel like I don't want you to. I'm saying you're old. I think you're going to mess it up.
Did that work? Did I raise my hand?
You did raise your hand, but you don't have your camera on.
I keep hitting the goddamn camera button, Eric. I don't know.
Like I said, maybe we just leave this as is.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. Well, I'm wearing sweet sunglasses, anyways.
All right. Number one seed.
Before we get into our brackets here, I did create another a men's one with the ESPN Analytics. So it's got some interesting picks. It's got UConn coming out of the East, Alabama coming out of the West.
Bama, NATOs.
Bama, down in Carolina, and then Arizona. We got Purdue coming out of the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the South, it's got Duke
Really?
Interestingly enough, beating Texas Tech to make it to the Final Four.
What?
Yes.
That's a choice.
It's
Is
a
a
choice. Texas Tech going through Kentucky. Also, Texas Tech getting to the Elite Eight, beating Florida, who they have beating Marquette. I thought that was interesting.
I would have to agree with that as well.
I'm not certain on that one, but yeah, let's get into these brackets, huh?
All right. So we start with the number 1 overall seed in this one.
That's
UConn
easy.
taking on Stetson.
But why don't we just talk about getting all the way to like the Sweet 16? Like some of this is pretty pointless. Like what is your top? Do you think Wisconsin can get beat by James Madison? Let's just boil it down, Eric. That's what everybody wants to know.
Fine by me.
Yes.
I have Wisconsin
beat.
losing.
Did you pick them?
I
Getting
picked
beat.
James Madison to win that.
I reluctantly picked Wisconsin. Very reluctantly. That was one of my I'm not sure picks, but I went with it just because I picked with my heart. I think it's really going to boil down to what Wisconsin team we're going to get. Obviously, it's been the tale of two sides here with this Badger team this year. Are we going to get the team that was playing like a top 6 team in the country, or are we going to get the team that shit their pants in the middle of the season and rolled around in it for the latter half of the season? I don't know. We just lost a close one in the Big Ten championship game. We just beat Purdue, who was at the time arguably the best team in the country. And we lost to a very solid Illinois team, a peaking Illinois team. If we get that Badger team, congratulations, James Madison, for making the tournament. Enjoy your summer. If we get the middle of the season, second half of the season Badgers, well,
The February Badgers.
The February Badgers, we're talking a different story now. It's very possible that James Madison pulls this off. It's a 31-3 team. They're one of, if not the best mid-major school in the country right now. It's a tough draw for the Badgers. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. That is, you talk about a just worst case scenario for Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think they would have been better off in terms of just seeding conversation. They did really enjoy the last weekend of basketball that they played, where they found themselves again and played the way that they played in January, December, and November.
Mm-hmm.
And found this new gear, refound this gear. A team that beat Marquette this year, has beat Michigan State on the road, took down Purdue in overtime in the Big Ten semifinal game.
Mm-hmm.
When all things are clicking, this is a very good Wisconsin team with a lot of veteran leadership. However, if they don't, and as you pointed out, Dylan, if things kind of start going awry, if the James Madison defense can shut down Klesmit and force it into the hands of Chucky Hepburn, where he has to play some hero ball like we saw last year, can go very, very good at times, but oftentimes it does not. This is, again, a very good James Madison team who took down Michigan State this year.
Yeah, that was going to be my point, Eric. That's the biggest point. And not only that, but at Michigan State, right? So not only do they know how to play against a Big Ten team, but they know how to play in that environment against a good Big Ten team, a tournament-tested team, a tournament team that's in the field. So I think that's the scariest part about it. But right now, I think the win against Purdue was the ultimate game changer for the Badgers. I don't think they fall. I think it's a close game because I don't think Wisconsin plays. The Maryland game in the second round of the Big Ten tournament was kind of an anomaly. But I think Wisconsin doesn't really blow teams out. They just don't. I think it will be a close game. I think it will be 10-point game. But I think it stays in that range. I think James Madison hangs around between that 5-10 point range, but I don't think they pull it out. I think Wisconsin goes in, and I don't know if I've picked them this far, but I think Wisconsin can go and beat Duke.
I will say, though, Justin, something that you said without kind of saying is they know how to play in the environment, which for lower seed teams, especially in this case, or James Madison is one of the Cinderella picks, the upset picks in this tournament. It's one of the most notable ones out there by all the bracketology experts and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The big factor is when you get in an arena, they're playing at the Barclays out in New York. When you get in this type of an arena, in the big moment, when a top seed is losing, it's a 5-12, fan support, except for those Wisconsin fans. So for people who are just there to watch the whole session or who are there to support one of the other teams playing either before or after them, they kind of turn on you. It becomes almost like an away game. And that's where I think if the game is close, Wisconsin might tighten up quite a bit. And that's really where I'm kind of worried about this Wisconsin team, is because they know that, the whole country seemingly is picking James Madison, because they feel this pressure that they have to kind of find themselves again. I fear that they're going to play tight, and that James Madison's going to take advantage of that and then have the crowd on their side as well.
The one thing that nobody's going to talk about is this dude, the coach, Boynton, or whatever, Boynton, however you want to say his name. He's got 1 foot out the door, man. He's looking at bigger. This 31-3 or 30-3 record that's got him. He's looking at dollar signs right now. West Virginia is hot on his tail, and I think that's a big factor right now. Like, who is this guy going to be? Is he totally focused on this game, or has he done the job that he needed to do to get a bigger job and get money? So I think there's a lot of, as good as this James Madison team is, there's a lot of factors working against this team too.
Mm-hmm.
You're the pick. You're the pick. You're everybody's Cinderella pick to upset this team. Wisconsin is, they're a 12-loss team, a 13-loss team, whatever they are, in coming out of the Big Ten. To me, it was amazing that they were seated as high as they were.
Yeah, if they lose to Purdue, or if they, I think that's what it kind of came down to, is if they had lost against Maryland or Purdue, I think you're looking at a 6, maybe a 7. That run and winning against as handedly as they did against Maryland, and then getting past Purdue in overtime, puts them on the 5 line and kind of puts them into this game, in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth, like I said, I picked James Madison to win this game. I don't know if I would have picked Wisconsin to beat Duke. I have Duke beating James Madison in the next round, but that's a tough draw for them either way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a two-headed monster that, when this team was 6th in the country, you're looking at a team, people are talking Sweet 16, Elite 8, an outside shot at the Final Four.
I want to just sidetrack just one small second, and I want to know how you guys feel about this. Where is Greg Gard's job status as we sit today? Is he firm?
I would say his seat is relatively cool. I think, as pissed off as fans were and wanted him to get fired and have the hot seat, I think for one reason or another, that being another 20-win season and kind of building from last year, having a transfer come in and have the impact that AJ Storr did. And I'm going to say this. So the reason Paul Chryst got fired and that Jim Leonard didn't get hired with the Badgers football team was that it was the quote unquote the same old Wisconsin way, right? Like, that's one of the big reasons. I think we can all agree on that.
Right.
But the conversation kind of flips with Greg Gard because he does go to the portal. He has gotten some relatively good players out of that portal, including AJ Storr, who potentially could be a first-round draft pick this year if he were to leave. So I think you're seeing enough flexibility in quote unquote losing that Wisconsin way, and that we saw the results early, we saw them late, that the month of February kind of is an anomaly more with this team, I think. But I think it's relatively cooled. And that's going to piss off a certain group of Badger fans, but I think they'll have to get over it.
I am going to agree with you, Eric. I don't think – I think that if you want to put an analogy to this, they're not lighting the fire under his seat, but at the very most, they're gathering the wood.
Yeah, they're kind of looking for a dying tree. They're kind of, figuring out what the kindling is, but
they're getting ready to light a fire if they need to light a fire.
I also will say, though, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Don't go ahead.
I would say they are a 22-13 win. They're 22-13. That's where they sit. Runners up in the Big Ten tournament. Granted, you can get thrown a fluke, but I don't think the Badgers getting to the Big Ten tournament championship was a fluke by any means. They did weather the storm. They had a hell of a first half of the season. They were ranked 6th in the country at one time. We can't forget that. This was a solid Badger team. This was on pace to be the best Badger team we've had since those mid 2010s with Kaminsky and Decker and Showalter and Koenig and that squad. This was on pace to be that next great Badger team, and they had a hell of a hiccup, and they withstood it. They bounced back, and yeah, I don't see him going anywhere. I don't see them looking anywhere else. I think he's safe for now.
And here's the thing that I think kind of gets forgotten about when they're going through that really rough run of February, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it without Kamari McGee. They're doing it without a couple other depth players that names are escaping me right now. But they're doing it with a limited Connor Essegian, who never really found his kind of tempo this season because of the back injury that he suffered in the early part of the season. Never really found his mojo, who's already committed to coming back next year, not entering the transfer portal. You had injuries in there that severely impacted the team and the depth of the team at that time, and threw off a whole bunch of rotations and how you got to be that 6th ranked team in the country in the first place. So I think, we kind of saw, I would still say that we saw the true identity of the Badgers in the Big Ten tournament. I don't think it was a fluke. Personally speaking, Justin, what say you?
It's hard for me because you got to take the whole body of work. You've got to move more. You've got to look deeper at the resume of where he's at, right? How many?
Sure.
Just look up his Wikipedia profile while I'm talking right now. He's made what? He's been there 7 seasons, 8 seasons, 7 or 8 seasons. And I don't know that he's maybe made one Sweet 16.
Greg Gard has been the head coach of the Badgers since the midway point of the 2015 season. As head coach, he has 186 and 106, which is about a 63% win rate. He is 6-5 in the NCAA tournament, 3-1 in the NIT, 2 Big Ten regular season championships, 2020 and 2022, 2-time coach of the year. And let me just kind of cross-reference that here. So it took over in 2015, or the 2015-16 season. The Badgers have made 2 Sweet 16s, which are coming off the 16-17 season. So its first 2 seasons.
Which is in 8.5 seasons. 2 Sweet 16s in 8.5 seasons. Right? And then in his 7th season, you don't even make the tournament. And this year, you have the most topsy-turvy, turny, whatever word you want to use, season that there is. Where's the consistency? Where's the growth? What are we? I mean, you've got landmark recruits coming in, 4-star recruits. Chucky's a 4-star. He was supposed to be the next big thing. I would think we all would agree that he hasn't been living up to that hype. What about Stephen Crawl? He lost a whole bunch of guys 2 years ago that transferred out, that were graduate transfers or going to be seniors. He did. I would say that in general, his seat is hotter than most people think. When you are, I read an article the other day, he is the 22nd highest paid coach in the nation. Which, when you're that, which is about midway point, like as we garner more teams into the Big Ten, puts him probably into the top third of the Big Ten. Not making the NCAA tournament, period, is unacceptable. And I think Ohio State, who just did that this year, and fired their coach, showed you what the standard of where you're going to be. We were at the echelon of turning the corner of being a power basketball program at the end of Bo Ryan's run. And if you keep digging this hole, it's going to take a long time to get back up. What he needs, to me, to really cool this seat off, he needs to be James Madison, and he needs to beat Duke, and he needs to get to the Sweet 16 again. If he doesn't get to the Sweet 16, I think his seat is hotter than most people think.
So let's say, Justin, for conversation's sake, they lose to James Madison. Is he starting the season with the Badgers next year?
I would still say yes. I would still say yes, but I would say you could have a Chris Holtmann situation going on next year, like in Ohio State, where they canned his ass right in the middle of the season. I'm telling you, boys, Chris McIntosh is not fooling around.
No,
he's throwing dollars around. I
hardly agree with you on that.
And if you're going to start missing on guys, and now you see your cross-state rival in Marquette, they're a 2 seed. They're a threat to go to the Final Four. They're talked about. They're finishing second in the Big East, which is what, the second best basketball conference in the nation? Maybe.
Depends on who you ask.
Right.
Not the tournament committee.
I would agree. I would agree with that. But when you see that happening, and you see them not settling like for a Steve Wojciechowski, and you go out and you get a Shaka Smart, like that was such a power move. Like, okay, we're gonna go take Texas's head coach. So when you see that happening, now the eyes are back on you in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do when you just hire the good feeling old Wisconsin boy, grew up in Wisconsin, loves Wisconsin, was Bo Ryan's assistant? Is he the sexiest coach out there to sell to recruits? No, but we're getting recruits.
He's probably one of the least sexy coaches to recruits.
Right. You know what I mean, right? Like in personality and
no, that's what I'm saying. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
In the ability to sell, like Wisconsin's basketball program right now, the facilities, the money, the NIL is what's selling it. It ain't Greg Gard. Think about if you could bring a guy home like Nate Oates, who has all that cachet. So that's what, like, you are facing those inside words. The people with money are facing those inside words. If you don't get to a Sweet 16 Like, that's not acceptable at Wisconsin anymore. Just making the tournament is not acceptable. Like, that should be Chris McIntosh's standard. Like, finishing 5th in the Big Ten. There was a time for 8-10 years in Bo Ryan's career, we didn't finish lower than 4th in the Big Ten. Now look where we are. Like, it's like, when you take the body of work, I think he's a good coach. But does Chris McIntosh want just a good coach, or does he want a coach that's going to keep us up there to compete with the UConns and the Arizonas and the teams that are blue bloods? Because you were almost there. You were literally almost there, back-to-back Final Fours.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's my point. Is, have you gotten as high as you can go with Greg Gard? Can Greg Gard coach in the big game and get you past when he wasn't riding Bo Ryan's recruits?
That's the question.
All right. Anyways, I'm sorry. That was a big sidetrack.
No, you're good.
That was.
So just a couple quick things here, Justin. Do want to ask, and you did as well, Dylan, how far do you have Marquette in your brackets?
I gotta pull that up.
I have them confidently beating Western Kentucky. I have them reluctantly getting to the Sweet 16. I only say reluctantly because of their past history in the tournament. They often are just a letdown.
Shaka Smart now. He's one that can't. He struggles in a big game too.
Right. I do think they're gonna make it to the Sweet 16. I have them losing to Kentucky to get to the Elite Eight. In a not confident pick, I do think Marquette has the ability to beat Kentucky if they get that far. Both teams get that far, rather. I just think Kentucky's got too much firepower for them, and that's going to be that, I think.
You know, as a whole, I flipped my pick. I was saying Kentucky. I kind of bought into Marquette because if they can get to the second weekend and get past Florida in that round of 32 game, gives Tyler Kolek another week to recover, get closer to full strength. I do still have them losing to Houston in that Elite Eight matchup to get to the Final Four. But I think that's a very high ceiling if Tyler Kolek can put the team on his back if that ankle's healing up.
Right. That's a big if there, though. He might tweak that in the tournament, too.
That's true, too. Let's say you.
I got Marquette going all the way to the Elite Eight. They're gonna lose to Houston.
All right, one more.
You know, they're just they're a well balanced team all the way around. Like they don't have a stupid big that is like they have a guy that's a point forward. They play a unique style of basketball. In Shaka's system, they're fun to watch, and I think they're hard to match up against. And I think they'll go. I don't know that Kentucky can take them down to get to this Elite Eight.
All right.
Well,
next question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to say
the thing about Kentucky is they're a glass cannon. Basically, they are all offense. They're one of the best offenses in the country. They're one of the worst defenses in the country. They're kind of like, the early 2010s Packers, where who needs to stop a team from we can let them score 35. We're just going to score 45.
They're not going to beat. They might not beat NC State.
I also have Kentucky beating NC State. Obviously, NC State just came off a big win on the ACC tournament championship against North Carolina.
I'll tell you what, there's not a guy in the tournament field that's more interesting than that big dude from NC State. I don't know if you guys seen this. This dude's like 6'8", 6'9". He's got to go about like 285, 290. Got a big gap in the middle of his teeth. Looks like
The only reason
like
he's the most interesting person, Justin, is because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from Indiana State's not in the tournament. They got snubbed.
That's
They
true.
got snubbed.
That is true. And their coach is gone too. He's going to leave. He's out of there.
All right, next question. Your biggest or furthest Cinderella team in this tournament?
I don't have any.
I got a couple. I have 2 11 seeds making the Sweet 16, one of them being New Mexico out of the West, and the other being Oregon out of the Midwest.
I think Oregon is a crazy good pick.
I think they are
That's
too.
who I got too.
They just got one of their best players back. I think they're going to beat South Carolina. I have them meeting Creighton in the round of 32. They're a good offensive team. They hate physicality, and Oregon is a big physical team. They're basically built to beat Creighton. So I have them making it there. I would say the next biggest upset I have would be Washington State over Iowa State to get to the Sweet 16 in the East.
All right. I'm going to shock you guys. Well, probably not Justin because he has the worst takes ever, but I have an 11 seed in my Elite Eight.
What?
Ooh. Hold on. Hold on. Don't say it.
Okay.
So 11 seeds. We're looking for Duquesne,
Or 12 seed,
Mexico,
excuse me. I have a
Oregon.
12 seed.
12 seed. Okay, so we're looking at UAB, Grand Canyon, McNeese, and James Madison. We know you have James Madison beating Wisconsin.
I want to take a guess.
That's where I'm at here. I'm going to go that you got McNeese.
I'm gonna go with you got you're a Bryce Drew boy. You got Grand Canyon going far.
I've got McNeese in my Elite Eight.
Oh, see now Will Wade. I like sleazeballs. Will Wade is a sleazeball.
I have McNeese.
But he's a hell of a coach.
I have McNeese taking down Purdue in the Sweet 16. I don't believe in Purdue, and I believe in McNeese playing the better defense to frustrate them.
What? McNeese beating Purdue? Shut up.
I don't think McNeese beating Gonzaga is a hot take. I don't think them beating either Samford or Kansas is a hot take. Purely because I have Samford beating Kansas just because Kansas' best player has been ruled out for the rest of the tournament. And they're kind of going the wrong direction anyway. Gonzaga, I have Gonzaga winning. I actually have Gonzaga beating Purdue to get to the Elite Eight.
Wow.
I'm with Eric. I
And
don't have
Kansas?
a lot of confidence.
You've got Gonzaga beating Kansas.
I have Samford beating Kansas.
Wow, you are upset city, Dylan.
I am. I'm taking a lot.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't think McNeese to the Sweet 16 is not a bad take. McNeese to the Elite Eight, I'm going to say that's a pretty hot one. That's a hot take.
I know it's a hot take. That's how much I don't believe in Purdue. That is strictly what that comes down to.
So why didn't you take TCU over Purdue? Great coaching there.
I don't think I have TCU playing Purdue. I have Utah State.
Oh,
I don't think that's bad. That's not a bad pick.
It's not. I mean, it's an 8-9 matchup. I get it, but I mean, come on. I'm going to be honest with you. I went pretty chalky in this bracket this year, and that usually never goes well, which is why I usually never do well in these goddamn things. But I don't see any other way. Like, you're gonna get at. I think North Carolina is the weakest number 1 seed there is, and I could see them going out in either round 1 or round 2. I could see that, but
That's how I feel about Purdue, though.
I
I
actually
really-
have North Carolina winning the whole thing. So
Shocker. Dylan picks
Yeah,
UNC.
shocker, right?
oh, oh my God.
big
This
Tar Heel guy.
explains my whole situation right now. You would be my assistant coach's best friend. He's a big Tar Heel guy. But anyways, whatever. Like, go Duke. But Wisconsin's going to beat Duke, so that sucks.
All right. I got to ask, so what do you guys have for Final Fours in your national championship game?
I think everybody's got the same, well, outside of the Tar Heel homer over here.
UConn, Houston?
Okay, my Final Four. Yeah. My Final Four is UConn against Arizona. And then Houston against Purdue.
All right, my Final Four, I've got UConn, North Carolina. I've got Houston, Tennessee. I don't want to pick Tennessee that far. I don't think they're that good, but I think the matchups fall that way. So I've got those two, and then my national championship game, I've got UConn, Houston, with Houston taking the whole thing.
Houston! I took UConn over Houston. What's your total score, Eric?
I've got 172.
Holy Christ.
That's a high score game. Wow.
I've got UConn over Houston with a total score of 148.
Yeah, you and I are pretty close in that total score. I got 145 for the total score. I have Tennessee coming out of the Midwest, kind of like Eric said. I don't have a lot of confidence in them, but just the way the matchups lined up, I think they can make it there if the teams do what I say they're going to do. But I have Houston beating Kentucky to get to the Final Four. I have Auburn beating Illinois to get to the Final Four. And I have North Carolina beating Arizona to get to the Final Four. And then in the national championship game, I have North Carolina over Houston with a total point scored 145.
Big Bruce Pearl fan, are you, Dylan?
I have Auburn's hot right now. Auburn is hot right now. I'm taking them. Okay. UConn is going to fall eventually. I think they're going to fall.
They're just so good. I mean, I don't know if you guys
they're
caught
so
them.
Damn good. They're so damn good.
Unbelievable. They are just unbelievable. I don't know. I don't even know how they lost 3 games this year. Anyways.
Well, they lost to some decent teams, though. One of their losses was to Kansas, who, you know, at any point when they have their full starting 5, they're as good as anyone. They lost to – who else did they lose to?
We're really dependent on you. We're really dependent on you right now.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, they are beatable. They're not invincible by any means here, but they're just so tough right now. They're so tough right now.
All right, let's move on. Let's wrap this episode up. We're going to start by picking our Ticket Smarter, what we are rooting for in the upcoming week. Ticket Smarter pick of the week, by the way. Use code ROOTS10, ROOTS, number 10, $10 off every single order. Not your first order, not your last order, not your next order. Every single one. Some exclusions may apply, but use code ROOTS10 on the app Ticket Smarter for $10 off every order.
Yeah, Ticket Smarter.
Our Ticket Smarter ticket of the week, I'm going to go the world of music. Hit the Epic Event Center for Skid Row and Buck Cherry Friday, March 22nd. Tickets are available. Tickets are available there, as well as for the Wisconsin Herd versus Fort Wayne Mad Ants back in the world of sports. And that is March 27th. So Ticket Smarter, $10 off every order there.
Sing some Buck Cherry, Eric.
I'm not going to do that. Sam Michaud.
Come on, sing some Buck Cherry, Eric. Come on, everybody wants to hear it. Let's spice this thing up.
So
Hey.
with that though,
You're crazy, bitch.
there we go.
Come on, Eric, get into it. Let's go.
Taking care of our business, Justin.
I'm
So
helping
with
him
that,
sell
so-
tickets.
After the Ticket Smarter ticket of the week, do you want to ask what do you guys got for your report for the week?
Ooh.
Pretty simple in my book here. It's the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. NCAA tournament. I want to see some good basketball. Go Badgers. Go Phoenix. Go Heels.
Yeah. When does the UFL start, Eric?
2 weeks on the
March 30th, huh? Yeah.
correct.
I'm excited for that. Yeah, like part of me I'm just at a weird crossroads with Wisconsin basketball. Like I'm so sick of this up and this down and where we're at. Either let's just put it on the line and have Greg Gard either look at it and say, if you win, you keep your job. If you lose, you're fired. Get out of here. Let's move on with our lives and get a good coach in here. That's what I'm rooting for. Let Greg Gard tell the story. Let him tell the story. Can he coach in the big game when it comes to the closing seconds? Can he come up with more in a big game? Can he come up with more than just putting Chucky and Stephen Carell in a pick and roll at the top of the key on a flat defense? Can he do more than that? I don't think so.
Time will tell.
Yeah, that's what
Time will tell.
Let's see some
All
good
right.
basketball, boys.
All right, and then our bar of the week. We brought this back this week after taking last week off. This is strictly just a bar to go have drinks at, and this is Bottoms Up in Maribel. 4.7 stars on Google. And you know what? I'm going to give it a 5-star myself because Ramsey, Shauna, and I were there after RPW this weekend, and we met the owner, and it was an excellent time. Elvis decor all over the place. Just a fantastic time. Nice bartender, cheap drinks. We get treated like royalty every time we're in Maribel. Cannot wait to go back. And yeah, that's our bar of the week.
There's a Bottoms Up in O'Connell too, by the way. I just want to shout out to O'Connell.
Well, it's not Donnie's. Donnie's Bottoms Up in Maribel. Place to be. Highly recommend. Again, the bartender, we hadn't ever been in there before. He gave us, he works at Sargento during the week. He gave us a pack of Sargento cheese because we were spending time there and fun to be with. So shout out Jeff, shout out Donnie. Great time out there this last Saturday.
Good job, Don. Good job, Big Don.
All right,
Don.
that is the episode for the week. Do you want to thank Dylan and Justin, who showed up late but still showed up nevertheless,
Who's eating
for
dinner?
these two knuckleheads, and for Shauna and Sean and Ramsey, who aren't here this week. I'm Eric the Big E, signing off. Episode 147 of the books. We're out. See you.
Peace.
Peace.